impermanence, karma, and temporal all together, which leading to the ultimate nature mind or the shunyata. So I find impermanence very rich, really, really. So teach impermanence slowly, way for people to realizing impermanence, slowly open the limitation of the mind, of the vision, and come to realize the limitless nature of ultimate nature. Now coming to karma.
Yes, the third Lodok Namshi.
Lodok Namshi, the Lodok Namshi. Actually, Lodok Namshi, Lodok is to, it's called turn your mind away from the samsara, toward the Dharma, toward the truth. Or basically saying, all the time we've been thinking in the wrong way anyway, looking in a completely wrong perspective. It's like to just like almost a transformation, a new perspective, a change, a true, vision, like Lodok, you understand? Yes. And that's why sometimes it's called also forethoughts also. In the West, like forethoughts, always like this forethought, turn your mind away from Koa, samsara, and toward the Dharma, the truth.
It's in a way, what came to mind is, it's like turning inwards also.
Exactly, turning inwardly. Inwardly, and because we're always looking outwardly, lost in the projection stories, we listen. As the great master, samsara's mind and are lost in projection. And when you look into Dharma, it makes one look inwardly to the deeper meaning of reality, and very much. The Lord Namshi is very much that. It's so precious, so inspiring. So inspiring. And of course, all the teaching I'm giving is just essential, just a taste, just communicating to the youth, to everyone, because I think sometimes we need to be explained the teachings more simply. But then, of course, there are many great teachings that you can always, connect with, as you said already, and find deeper teachings, And even in my teachings, we have a website, by the way. We have a website called Treasury of Wisdom, which I'm going to make it available here in Bhutan in time, which has all kinds of things, which has things about suicide, question about suicide, prevention, how to help, question about, for example, about relationship, about depression, all kinds of things. I wouldn't say they're complete. They're ongoing, process of teaching, and and so there are some things about depression like humorous. Sometimes I speak more direct. So many of these we need that. Especially young people need. It's like almost every day how to deal with life. Life is not so easy. It's not so easy. So we need really teaching like that. I think it may benefit. And also substance abuse. That's one I don't think I've addressed that I'd like to address. And there was also mentioned by a number of people there may be something for the youth, or maybe a book for the youth. I was requested. No. So maybe I shall try to. I do research. Yes. When I do like that, I don't just give my teachings. I bring to be authentic. Yes. I teach spontaneously, but also very authentic. So Retard is really authentic. And very much I bring from all traditions. Even though I'm Nyingma, I am my master like Jamin Khyentse. He's the really true respect all the traditions. And the master says, why all these traditions are, he had a very good argument. He said that because all the masters from all the traditions attain enlightenment. So they're all, So, but then also depending on yourself, your karmic link with one tradition, one lineage. That's what my master say. Be respectful to all, open to all, but follow your own. Very much. So about Le Junde, the third. Le is karma. Karma, Junde is cause and effect. Everything in this life is cause and effect, everything. That's the basis of Chuli Dharma. Chul Nyingbo. To have faith in the, if you believe in the, in the law of cause and effect, if you really not only believe, if you live that, you really are practicing the Dharma. So really important. Very important. Because you see, la means action with potent with result. You know, it's like the bird, you know, when it's low, when you fly, the shadow, then when it flies up, shadow disappears. But when you land, you see. So when you act, it's there, but then you don't see the consequences, but consequences will never leave you unless you purify the karma. So Lajunde, I think Lajunde, the most important thing is we don't realize really, we don't take that seriously. We think we just get away. It says, unalterable are the laws of karma, cause and effect cannot be escaped or cannot be cheated. So therefore, if you really become a truly believe in the law of Lejunde, then you become, like Christians say, a God-fearing person. Christianity and others is God-fearing because, you know. But in our Lejunde is very important.
Yes. And speaking about Lejunde Rinpoche and Christianity, although we are a Buddhist nation, our schooling has been so much of it has been inclined on the Western side. I don't have any complaints about it, but our thinking, in a sense, has also become theistic. In a sense that when we think, for me, what karma did for me, the law of karma did for me, was the fact that it was almost like a matrix, the movie Matrix. It made me take stock of my life. Because we tend to somehow, I don't know from where it started, but if everybody goes through it, but we tend to think about the origin of life and where did it begin and all of that stuff. And karma kind of puts that to rest by saying that what you are is what you've done.
That's it. Buddha said, we are what we think. All that we arise with the thoughts. With the thoughts we make the world. Speak or act with pure mind and happens for. We are what we think. All that we arise with the thoughts. With the thoughts we make the world. If you speak or act in pure mind, trouble will follow. Yeah, very much. Very much. So very much, you know, I think it's there's a wonderful advice given by my master Jangchub. One disciple asked him. He's still alive. He's one of the oldest disciples of Jangchub. In Tibet, he's doing great teachings. He's also very close to Khyentse Rinpoche. He offered teaching to Khyentse Rinpoche also. He holds a lot of lineages. He, when he was young, he wrote a little note to Khyentse Rinpoche. My master Jangchub. By the way, Jangchub was the master of Khyentse Rinpoche. Oh, would you grant me some blessings? Whereupon he wrote back, well, it's difficult for someone like me to grant you blessings. It's a bit like Atisha Dipankara, you know, the great Kadamba master. When he was asked, because Kadamba tradition is we all follow. The Kagyus follow, Nyingmas follow, we all follow Kadam. But the new Kadamba is the Geluk. All Kadambas, really, if you look into Kunzana Mishanong, and also Tapur Thajin, all that. Yeah. And so Atisha, when he was asked by a disciple, oh, Choje, would you grant me some blessings? And he bent very low to him. He bent down even. Atisha bowed even lower than him, saying, oh, cozy one, because he was a part of a very cozy one. Oh, part of, oh, cozy one, would you grant me some devotion? Because if there's no devotion, there's no blessing. Cause and effect. And so, like Khyentse Rinpoche says, while it's difficult for someone like me to grant you blessings, but as long as your purity of mind and pure perception and devotion in your heart, blessing will surely be yours. Why is it? Because aside from a pure and impure state of your mind, there's no one that will bind you or set you free. We are our own master. If your mind is pure, you're free. If your mind is impure, you're bound, chained, samsara. I mean, for me, it's so amazing when the master delivers that. It really chud nyingbo. If your mind is impure, it's samsara. If your mind is pure, it's nirvana. So it's very simple. Keep your mind pure. Keep your heart and mind pure. Really. And so, I mean, you know, there's no one who's bind you or set you free. You are your own master. In Buddhism, we are our own master. We are the charge of your own karma. We are very powerful.
Democratic.
Democratic, really. And also Buddhism is very democratic because it's not like Of course we follow the Buddha Shakyamuni, but we don't become like Buddha Shakyamuni. All of us may become enlightened, you know. We become our own Buddhas. We become our own Buddhas because we all have unique in that we have Buddha nature. That's why we have so many Buddhas. Shows that we become our own Buddha. So it's very, very... I remember Ngyondro Rinpoche say, in all other teachings, it is said that you can be close to God, but you never say you become God. But Buddhism, you become your own Buddha. It's very, you know, and it's something about Buddhism, it's so related to now.
Yes. And Rinpoche is sharing about impure thoughts and pure thoughts, and nobody else can bind you. And speaking about the law of karma, I guess we always, most of us, when we think about karma, we think about the deeds and its actions, but we tend to forget that we can change it. That
we can change it, yeah.
Yes, we are the doer. Yes.
As Shakespeare, even Shakespeare, you know, in Ulysses, the only thing I remember, fall, dear Brutus, lies not in the stars, be in ourselves, that we are underlings. It's in our hand. And particularly if you read the life of great, not only masters, like Milarepa, he's incredible. I think Dalai Lama says, you know, when I read the life of Milarepa, I cry. When I tell the story of Milarepa, he said, I cry. Because he was such an extraordinary story of somebody, through really diligence, he used to be able to become a sinner into a saint, you know, really, and attain enlightenment this life, which is no doubt. So it's such an inspiring story of Milarepa. You know, so that we can make it, we can change, you know. Karma is not predestination. It's like it's changing, it's in our hands. You know, what we've done. If you want to know the past, look into your present. If you want to know your future, look into your present action. So the main thing is, you see, I want everyone to be a little bit aware of, you know, of really karma, in the sense of, like, you know, being responsible for yourself. Because, you know, your parents may tell you, they tell you to do good, bad, and you may just hate them telling you, nagging you. But, you know, sometimes, you see, you need to think of for yourself, for your really self, you know, for your own good, because you're your own master. You're really your own guru. I mean, I always say people, you follow the teaching of a master, but the fundamental is whether you follow it or not. So we are very powerful. And we, you know, and we have Buddha nature. I've been teaching Buddha nature is very inspiring for people with low self-esteem. Buddhism treats us with tremendous respect, especially Vajrayana. When you think about, in the basic vehicle, or the Mahayana, you know, compassion inspired by the suffering of beings, you know. If you see the suffering beings, then you move to compassion. Whereas in Vajrayana, you know, how the compassion is called summoning forth the wisdom, is that you see that all beings have the Buddha nature, the potential enlightenment, and you want to return to the glory of their true nature with that respect. So compassion is not like a pity at all. It's really with respect.
It's like more like empathy.
Empathy. And it's combined with empathy and reason, and heart and mind. That's why the Lojong teachings, you need to really reason, and particularly like anger, you can see how it is negative, you know. And the Lojong teachings, particularly like Jangchub Shing, you know, all these things, it's like just as Shivala Buddha said, Shantideva's own personal, you know, he's talking to himself also. And just the personal reflection is so inspiring. It's incredible. And that you really, and change. You change, you know. I mean, we all not born just perfect, you know, we have to. Even the lamas have to work. Yeah.
And one beautiful thing that Rinpoche speaks about karma is that even negative karma has one good quality.
A negative karma has no good quality, but one good quality is purifiable. That's why Semchen and the Sanjit, they don't love it to me. Semchen beings Buddhas, but yet they obscure adventure stage. Adventure stage means it's not inherent with nature mind, but then there's no hope. it's also impermanent, so purifiable.
Yes. On that note, even negative karma is purifiable and has one good quality. The final, is there anything else that Rinpoche would like to speak about the law of karma?
If you just really observe and see, particularly in this day and age, we don't have to wait too long to see the result of your past karma. They catch you now, sometimes what you do in the morning, evening, you know. Yeah, really, it catches you, see the result of your karma. If you really be, you know, honest and look at yourself really, you know. Very much you see the consequence of your karma. There's no escape, it boomerangs you. So really need to be aware that, you know, always be aware. In the teachings of the great master of the past, especially Kadamba Master used to say, first thing in the morning, check your motivation. Last thing evening, check your action. You go and put your hands here and say, what have I done today? Have I done well, or have I, you know? Then if you've done something negative, you confess. If you've done something well, you know, you rejoice, but don't, again, take too much pride and become arrogant. But just rejoice, say, I'll do better. And then if you've done anything negative, make confessions and I will, you know, redress and, you know. And so each time you go on improving, you've got to watch. And sometimes I recommend people to have a notebook, book of insight. It's about really about your own mind, about your own. Sometimes you don't need others to tell you. You can see what are your faults. But also it's very important not to beat yourself up. You know, especially in the West, people think, you know, I am bad, I'm bad, I'm bad, I'm bad. People think if you have good thoughts, you're good. If you have bad thoughts, you're bad. I mean, just good thoughts, bad thoughts. But you don't beat yourself up. You should love yourself. Buddha said this, if you look all over the world, someone more worthy of love than yourself, you will not find another. He who loves himself will not harm another. Wonderful thing is if you really love yourself, not in a narcissistic way or, you know, selfish way, but really, we deserve love, care. Because who do you have? For yourself, you. You're my friends. But you got to be a good friend to yourself. You got to love yourself. You got to take care, you know. Love yourself. Take care of yourself. No one can do it, you know. If you have people helping you, if you don't do it yourself, you won't. So therefore you should be really a good friend to yourself. And to really see your faults in an inspiring way. Write down what you need to change. Then instead of somebody else kind of nagging you, you can just, before they nag you, you change. I remember Eugene Rinpoche to say, if this is a problem, remove it. If suppose something about you that, you know, maybe it's your anger, your too much ego, that's not getting along, that's the problem, remove it. If you want to be successful, if anything comes in the way, remove it. And really be honest, be pure, you know, and really keep your heart, mind pure. Have Kulong Namda, you know, Samba Zambo, Kulong Namda. It's really to be Samba Zambo and, you know, and to be pure heart, pure motivation. Important. And very much, you know, like that. So it's really, you should be aware of always. Sometimes remind us of, you know, sometimes very good to have also on your watch certain reminders. In our center, sometimes we have bell from time to time. Remind us of meditation, of mindfulness, of, you know, karma. Sometimes you may be sayings of karma, certainly. You should have them post wonderful sayings in the toilet, in different places, remind in the kitchen. You know, certain reminders of impermanence. Very important reminders, you know. And then, you know, and then you very much legendary. Legendary, really to respect that is really, really one of the most important things of sure. I mean, there's so much more, but I didn't do full justice, but at least just initial, just appetizer.
Yes. Rinpoche will progress to the next Lodonam Jila.
Well, it's Koroenimi, you know, samsara is an ocean of suffering, unbearably intense. Yeah, I mean the koa, kora means just going around the cycle, bit like the soap opera. So it's really kora, really goes on and on. But I think the one thing that very, and the kora is actually full of suffering and frustration. And I think in modern times it's stress. Someone said, stress is dukkha, suffering. As suffering is, and samsara is full of suffering. It's actually no good. It's got no essence. I mean, you go and search for success. It's like a glittering. It's a bit like when I was there in Berlin when the wall came down, when all the East Berliners came out, crying to see the, supermarkets and, seeing all the glittering, all this, It's like then afterwards now they are disillusioned, It's like, it's all these things are tantalizing. It's tantalizing. It's like the, tantalizing, it's really, and then full of suffering, like suffering, there's like there's an all-pervasive suffering, like, and there's the suffering of change, there's suffering of suffering. Like when one suffering happens, another happens on top of that, it's everything, like suffering of change. And there's so many kinds of suffering. I won't enumerate this. That in the teachings you can find. But that really, it's like when you really look into everything, it's a bit like if you go to Berlin, like, Germany, and if you see people speaking German, it's not surprising, isn't it? Because in Berlin, in kova and samsara, it's always suffering. So if you see suffering, it's natural. I remember one Lama. He's a very, very great Lama. And he had leukemia. He was in the hospital in New York. And I called him, said, to almost console him. Oh. And then he said, Korwa. He said such a way, it's samsara, in such a way that it was very inspiring. He said, like samsara, we experience suffering. Suffering. So therefore when you look into you see the suffering of samsara, and there's no essence, no nyingbo. And when you know more and more, then you see the intense stuff, you get kind of, basically you need to fed up. It's a bit like eating greasy food, and then and you vomit. You no longer have, the revulsion. You need revulsion. You need Ngyondro. You want to really come out of it. And you want a sense of choshi, Ngyondro choshi, sense of sadness, It's like a sadness, you bring it to a sense of sadness, and sense of like, you want to really merge out of it there. I think one very beautiful one, what I always find so inspiring by Shantideva, Jasishivala, from Jangchub says, though longing to be happy, in their ignorance, they destroy their happiness as if it were the worst enemy. Though they wish to get rid of suffering, yet they rush headlong towards it. Poor being. That's samsara. Your aim and action are completely contrary. I mean, there's no one who doesn't want to be happy. But because of ignorance, the longing to be happy in the ignorance, they destroy the happiness as if it was the worst enemy. Though they wish to get rid of suffering, yet they rush along. That's samsara. So therefore we need to reflect on that and renounce. And then we need chö. We need to chö. We need the Dharma. We need the chö. That will really bring you knowledge and wisdom which can counteract and realize and then reflecting on. And by then you want to have a sense of Ngyondro, renunciation. Sense of renunciation. I remember, I think, Dzongsan Khyentse Rinpoche, I think, one of his Khenpos, I think, from Bhutan, He did, I think, 3-year retreat or something. And when he came out of it, he talked about, main thing he asked him is, did you have some renunciation? If you don't have a renunciation, no amount of retreat is useless. Ngyondro is very important. Sense of wanting to really emerge, sense of really almost fed upness of samsara, Ngyondro. Otherwise you become, Joshi. Then you need to fall in love with Dharma. Opposite. That's why Ngyondro. So then by reflecting that, may my mind turn toward the Dharma, to Chu, Lodo Namyi Dharma. So very much really sense of renunciation.
And Rinpoche spoke about the Khori Nyemik and about how, I guess, contemplating on the so-called defects of samsara, one tends to develop this genuine sense of renunciation. And then Rinpoche was also sharing about the Lama Rinpoche who had leukemia, because Rinpoche in the previous interview also spoke about this, that Khorwa Re. And that has personally helped me also, in a sense that the reflection on the truth, the reality of so-called reality of samsara, one tends to, it works as a consolation also.
A consolation, yeah. Consolation, exactly. Very good, it's consolation. That's why I call it Jangchub, you have hope. And so, really consolation. It really, that's what Dharma is really. You see, that was a wonderful thing Dharma, I think, what Longshen Bahu said. Because of suffering, I came to Dharma, found the ultimate friend, grateful to the suffering. Because of enemy, I came to Dharma, found the ultimate, grateful to the enemy. The Dharma makes you grateful to all. And really, I think it's wonderful. Choosing in the high level, really incredible Dharma. And really, Korenyimi, really reflect on that. But I think, we all actually, even I say glibly talk about it, but in myself, I need to reflect more. We get distracted, we get, carried away, but that's why sometimes suffering comes, difficulty comes, it humbles us. Really. I wanted to, when I come to Bhutan once, to teach on Jiddu Lamchir, how to turn suffering, happiness to enlightenment. It's a very wonderful teaching by Doptri Jingmit Eminema, who was the master by master, and a really great master. He's teaching on Jiddu Lamchir, wonderful. Anyway, so very much really to that, even myself, I will often remind, and when I therefore teach, I'm grateful to talk about this also, because for me also, it's a teaching for myself also. Really wonderful when you hear. That's why I always receive teaching from many masters. Even the younger ones, I respect, especially, really respect them all. I have some very young, really dynamic Drupakaju masters, really young ones, very extraordinary ones. One particularly. And so it's very inspiring. So that's why reflecting on this Loto Namji, it really inspires, it gives you encouragement, makes you want to practice Dharma. So whenever you're failing, you should reflect on Loto Namji. That's so important. It becomes like the most important foundation. And that's the basis of the basic vehicle. It's the basis of all, foundation of all. And from there, then you come to first take refuge. And that is common to all schools, common to all yanas, vehicles. And that's the basis of the basic vehicle. Then from Chanchu Sem, it begins Mahayana. And from Vajrasattva Dorsim, it begins Vajrayana. As Buddha said, in the Four Noble Truths, suffering must be known, its cause must be abandoned. Cessation, actualized, path to cessation must be followed. The first two lines are related to samsara. Suffering must be known. But then, its cause can be abandoned. We can overcome samsara by abandoning the cause of suffering, which is ignorance, negative destructive motion, negative actions. Then cessation or suffering, we can stop suffering. We can reach nirvana, peace of nirvana. Cessation can actualize. And part to cessation, that's related to some nirvana. First two are samsara, second nirvana. And then cessation can be actualized. Actual ultimate cessation is like the Mahamudra and the talk about nature mind when you realize ultimate. That's the ultimate. But then part leading is through knowledge and wisdom we overcome ignorance, and then with love and compassion, positive emotion, we overcome the destructive emotion, and engaging beneficial action, we overcome purify the negative karma. Thus, we can slowly reach the peace of nirvana. And then, of course, from the very beginning with the Ngyondro, then to the main practice until the ultimate, for part followers. There was this great master, Zen Master Suzuki Roshi, who wrote the very famous book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. When he was dying of cancer. The students, students were like a little bit grieving. Whereupon he told them, we should be grateful that we have a limited life. He said, if you and I were to live forever, it would be terrible. Now, about samsara. Because of craving, attachment, ignorance, men, gods, animals, hungry ghosts, helping, foolishly go round like a turning of a potter's wheel. Samsara is a perpetual cycle of struggle, achievement, disillusionment, and pain. It is the karmic chain reaction of dualistic fixation and epitome of pain, imprisonment, and insanity. Ngyondro Choshe. Ngyondro, a sense of wanting to really emerge from samsara. When you see the korenyimi, the kind of almost like the defects of samsara, you really wanted to gain revulsion and want to emerge out. And then Choshi is a genuine heart of sadness. A beautiful word, which is that really genuine heart of sadness.
Rinpoche very eloquently put the Lodro Namji in perspective. Would it be right for one to call the Lodro Namji as ration to carry on in the Ngyondro practice?
Yes, it's like the incentive.
Rinpoche, now the main practice.
Now, sometimes they're known as the outer preliminary and inner preliminary. Or they are sometimes known. Outer preliminary is the four thoughts, or the Lodro Namshi. Inner preliminaries are like a refuge, taking refuge, generating heart of enlightenment, with bodhicitta, Jangchub Shing. Then Vajrasattva purification. Then offering of mandala. And ultimately is Guru Yoga.
So-called outer and inner Ngyondro, the inner life, Rinpoche could elaborate on that.
It's extraordinarily vast, the teachings are, but it's also can be very centralized, profound also. That's how Rinpoche, Tengu Khyentse Rinpoche, Nyuji Khyentse Rinpoche used to teach, really. These great masters. I always say, I'm neither learned nor realized anyway, but I've been blessed and held with the love and compassion for some of these great masters who are actually really Buddha in the flesh. Anyway, I think sometimes, unfortunately, when they're living, we always, with our human frailty and with our impure perception, we judge them as human. But it's only when they die we realize that they are actually Buddhas. No, very much. Anyway, so about the Lodro Namshi are the outer preliminaries, and the inner preliminaries are beginning with the refuge, Jamdro. Jamdro is like, once we realize, the suffering nature of samsara, then it's really, we want to emerge out of it. We want to emerge, but we don't know how. So we need a guide. We need a way. We need friends along the path. So it's very much the Buddha is the guide, because Buddha attained enlightenment, and he realizing that every being has the Buddha nature. You know, really, I think he's really realized ultimately that all beings have the Buddha nature, and he wants to bring us to the true nature of our enlightenment. That's why he shows us the path to enlightenment and gave us the guidance in such a wonderful way, you know. And so there's no guide greater than the precious guide is the Buddha, the enlightened one. And what he showed us is the path, the Dharma. And the Sangha of Gendu are those minds that turn toward the virtue. You know, the practitioners. I mean, there are many levels of Sangha, but those basically, those are on the path to enlightenment, you know. But traditionally, we call the Gendu as the ordained Sangha, monks and nuns, you know. But now in the modern times, really very much, like in the West and others, anybody who's truly their mind is turned to and become a practitioner of Dharma becomes like a friends, you know. Especially in the modern times, we need very much friends who support us on the path. When we take refuge, you know, it's like we need like a, when we have fear, you know, we need like take refuge. We need like, you know, we need help, we need to take refuge, we need guidance, you know. So very much the refuge is that, put in a very simple way. You know, the suffering nature of samsara. Samsara, an ocean of suffering, unbearable, intense. Recognizing this may mind turn toward the Dharma. Then you see also in the more fuller Ngyondro teachings, it really then, you see the defects of samsara, but then you also begin to learn the wonderful quality of liberation, Tarbelam. You learn about that. There's a whole section in that, something Gundala Michalon, what a map of a teacher. And then also following the guidance of a master. There are sometimes 6 sections like that, but generally the 4 Nodo Namshi. You know. And then we, you know, having contemplated on that, just very essentially, then we take refuge. Refuge is the first step. It's like the entrance, you know, the door, foundation of the path. But then you see, the entrance to refuge is actually faith. So the faith, there are 3 kinds of faith. Tanwe tepa, ndepe tepa, yichich tepa. Tanwe tepa is vivid faith or inspired faith. Ndepe tepa is eager faith. And yichich tepa is confident faith. Now, about the vivid faith, there's an example of, once there was an emperor in China who was a Buddhist emperor. But he has his prime minister who did not have faith in the Buddha Dharma. But the emperor sent him to this monastery on an official visit. So he went there, he didn't have faith. But when he entered the monastery, as the doors flung open, and he saw all the monks practicing and sitting and that were practicing, he was so inspired, you know. Then he really inspired faith. That's called Tanwe Tepa. When you're inspired, you know, when you see a beautiful image of Buddha, or when you see Master, like inspired. But sometimes inspired faith can be a little bit unstable. Or rather, in a sense of that, you know, it can be like an opening, inspired, you know. But then Ndepe Tepa is when you really realize, when you find the, you know, particularly when you find that, you know, law of cause and effect of the karma, you begin to realize that you really say you want to abandon negative actions. You want to adopt positive actions. All these things you want to really, you know, then you really want to, and you realize the Dharma is, you know, good for you, and you need it, it can be one. Then you really have like a desire wish eager. I give an example. Ngyondro Rinpoche gives an example of, that someone going through the desert and watching the scorching sun and tired and exhausted and saying that, oh, I wish I could find a water to quench my thirst. And after walking, finally arrives at the oasis when they see this waterfall and wonderful, seeing that he was so inspired. That's called vivid faith. And then when he drinks the water, it really quenches thirst. That's the eager faith. And I always tell people, that Buddhism, the faith is based not on blind faith, but on reason. Chuten Dembe Tepa. It's like with the water. I have faith in the water, because when I drink it, it quenches my thirst. So I have faith. In the same manner, in the Dharma we find that when you take refuge, like for example for me, Guru Rinpoche, whenever I invoke him, it really immediately I get feedback. I get really the blessing. It transforms the mind, overcomes fear, very much so. Therefore, I have the Yichi step. I've got that. I have that faith, and therefore, I have that eager. I'm eager to when you thirsty, you want to drink water. Eager. In the same manner, you want eager to abandon negative karma. Eager to, I think Ngyondro puts it very beautifully. And then finally, when you really find a confident faith, which is really irreversible, whatever circumstances, you will never lose faith, That's kind of like the most important with that. So 3 types of faith we require for us that's the entrance, faith. Then you take the refuge. With the Buddha as the guide, Dharma as the path, Sangha as friend, power. We can say like, Lama la kyapschu. Because in Lama la kyapschu, Sangha la kyapschu, Chu la kyapschu, at a refuge in the Lama. Actually, it was the embodiment of all. At a refuge in the Buddha, at a refuge in the Dharma, a refuge in the Sangha. It's like in Pali tradition, Buddham Saranam Gacchami. That means Dharamam Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Then also the Rinpoche you say Namo Gurube, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. We can say Lama la Kyapschu, Sangha la Kyapschu, Chu la Gendun la Kyapschu. Now that when we take refuge, we can just simply say that. But I think one thing is very important, as I've been saying, always reminding again and again, that Buddha himself said, whoever thinks of me, I'm in front of them. So when you take refuge, either we can take a refuge just whenever I see this wonderful image of Buddha that has the, almost giving us refuge here in Thimphu. When you see inspiring, you can just take refuge. Even the thought of Buddha comes to your mind. It is said, merely the thought of Buddha, even the mention of the name of Buddha, if it inspires you, it fills your mind, it really accumulates tremendous merit, it's said to be, purifies you. And so we just simply taking refuge. Sometimes in everyday life it's more meaningful when you realize the quality of the Buddha. And if you see a wonderful monk or a practitioner, you inspire that like refuge. Anyway, so the thing is, traditionally, in the practice of refuge, you visualize a field of merit, Soxing. Sometimes you call in the West refuge tree, but field of merit, you visualize, field, and in which all sentient beings are there. All sentient beings are, and you can consider space as large as the whole world. This time you can see it as flat. Just purpose of that. Even the world is round, of course. And that then there you can consider, I've always tell my students, you can visualize all the best features of the world, some of the most beautiful landscapes like a mountain, Mount Everest, some of the great mountains and the great oceans and some of the great land features also. we can think of them. And then like Samye and some of the great, and then really then all sentient beings in there. And then you're the sponsorer, you're the main inspirer of that. All sentient beings are gathered there. Particularly in there is like the most important was your enemies. People who harm you, they're the most important one. They're the chief guests. And on your right and left are all those close to you, your father and mother and all close relatives and friends, And we all take refuge. With the body, we pay processions. Like I said, when you're in a huge field with the flowers, when the wind blows, it's all like that, with all those, with body we take refuge. With speech we say the word of refuge. With the mind we say from now unto enlightenment, I take refuge in you, I rely on you, I have no one other than you, for example, with your mind. But then when you visualize the refuge, traditionally there's this wish-fulfilling tree, and that it has 4 branches, because the huge thing within that, actually 4 branches, but the main one you see on the 1,000-petal lotus, the embodiment of all refuge, is in the Ngyondro Nyingma tradition, is Guru Rinpoche, in the form of Vajradhara or Guru Rinpoche. In the Kagyu tradition is Vajradhara, but they're the same. Very much, he's your Tawa Lama, appear in the form of Guru Rinpoche. As I said always, Guru Rinpoche is the embodiment of compassion, blessing for all the Buddhas, There's a very simple refuge called the all-embodied jewel practice, in which you can just consider Guru Rinpoche. Or Buddha Shakyamuni. Sometimes we forget Buddha. He's our really teacher. Buddha Shakyamuni is wonderful. And that sometimes in monasteries we have our, Nyingmas have Guru Rinpoche, the Kagyus have like a Milarepa, or like Drukpa, you have like Shabdung. We forget the Buddha. I think it's very important to have, that's why now very much aware that always Buddha is the central. Very much the Buddha, or Guru Rinpoche, called all embodied jewel. In one, it's all embodied. That's a very simple way of practice. The Dujun Rinpoche is to teach that simple way. But then if you do it elaborately, then in the center is Guru Rinpoche, same as your Tawa Lama. And then in the front is the lotus petals, and that is all the 1,002 Buddhas of this fortunate age, but principally Buddha Shakyamuni in the center, on the right Buddha of the past, on the left maybe the Buddha of future. So, and all 1,000 Buddhas you can visualize. Imagine they're there. Consider they're there. Difficult to visualize. And sometimes you see, when you cannot visualize, because you're not, some people can visualize very well. Otherwise, they cannot visualize. Then your emotion is your visualization. Just feel that. Most important, feel the presence. Even just thinking of the Buddha inspires your refuge. Yeah, really, it just is really there. So therefore you need to empower your visualization with, with faith. And remembering. Guru Rinpoche says, I am the embodiment of all Buddhas. Seeing me, you see all the Buddhas. Accomplish me, you accomplish all the Buddhas. For I am the embodiment of all the Buddhas. All the Buddhas of the past and future, surrounded by all the Buddhas of this fortunate age. And then on the right, or on the left, are the Savaka and Pratyuga, Buddha, which are the Sangha of the basic vehicle. Like considering like Shariputra, Mongayana, some of the Buddha's main disciples, sometimes depicted as the 8 main, Kashyapa and the others, you can consider them. And on the right are the 8 bodhisattva shachas. Chenresi, Manjushri Njambeya, and Chana Doji and our others, Jangchub Shing. And behind are all the dharmas in the form of pile of books, So very much Buddha represent the Buddhas, the Dharma, making their own self sound, like saying, sometimes with Alikal Ai, all Dharmas making their own sound, It's really live. And then on the right and left are the Sangha of the Mahayana and Sangha of the basic vehicle. Very much, they're actually there. And above are, you see, in the painting you have to paint them on the right, but actually when you visualize it, one on top of the other, almost touching. Above your since the Guru Rinpoche is your, the root Lama is Guru Rinpoche, above him is his master. Like, for example, if I think of Jangchub Shing, above him is his master, and then his master, up to the, like, for example, like Jingme Limba, Longchen Rabjam, then goes on Yikin Soyan on Guru Rinpoche, Shirasing Hanjana Sutta, and Garab Doje, that's the first human Dzogchen master, then to the Sambhoka Vajrasattva, then Pramodji Buddha, Chuku, Kundasampo. The lineage. And the lineage masters, they're root and lineage masters. And it's like, one thing is that like blessings all coming directly. It's like you have the blessing of the lineage, very much, really. I think it's very powerful to see them all. And I always say them, they're all alive, particularly if you know, like in our thing, we think of Dujumsi thing, we can't they're alive, because you know them. And really, they're all present there as objects of their quality of wisdom, compassion, and love, and the power, And then you see, and then in the front are, are all the Yidam deities and all the Dakinis, and the round on the circumference are the protectors. The male protectors are looking outward toward of obstacles. The female protectors looking inward so that no blessings can seep out or it's not being draining out. Yeah, thank you. So like that, you visualize them all vividly, and and then you see them as vivid, like appearing like a rainbow, like a reflection in the mirror, appearing yet empty, like the reflection winter. Earlier when you were talking about the Takchit, the tower appearing, because that's like same as form is emptiness. Form sees emptiness, but emptiness appears in the form of form. Because they appear a unity of appearance and emptiness, in the nature of that. And then you take refuge, really, with your body, speech, mind, with body, you make prostrations. With speech, you say the refuge formula, and with the mind, you take, refuge. And from now on to enlightenment, yeah. Most important, unto enlightenment, I take refuge for the benefit of all beings. Buddhas are everywhere. They're available. Only because of our obscure mind, and our impure perception, we don't see them. Like the great master, like Jangchub Shing, he was taken on tiger tops, here in Darjeeling, to see the sunrise. Remember everybody's taking there, especially Bengali, in the early days with the bad small cameras, they try to take photos anyway. So they see, you go to see the sunrise from the plains of Siliguri. It's very kind of impressive. And when Jangchub Shing went up there, he said, he looked toward the east. There resides the great Vimala Mitra, great Pandit Vimala Mitra, who he is the emanation of. And he had very much devotion to him immediately in the east direction. And whereupon the sun itself became Vimalamitra and appeared, vision came. When he was in Nalanda, he saw all the Panditas of the past appeared. And that all the 16 Arhats in the I think Sarvasti, I think that's Buddha spent 25 years, rainy season, there he saw. No, they all appear. So masters, like great masters, like, they have so much humility, But they see, Buddhas are there, present. It's for us only to realize. And sometimes you see, when you read the words of refuge and really remember that and say, then it's really very inspiring. And in the Vajrayana, in Sangha Doji Tepa, we have the refuges, inner refuges. Lama is the source of all bliss. Jinlapchita Lama. Ngudupchita, source of all attainment and realization, is the Yidam. Tinlajchita, the activity and inspiration, is the Khandro. And so that. And then more deeply you can think as also like the mandal of the Tsalung Tigle. If you realize it's the mandal of the Bodhicitta, Jangchub Shing. And then more secretly, deeply, that the ultimate nature mind, whose essence is empty, Ngo Tongba, is Dharmakaya. Rangin Sawa, its nature cognizant, is Sambhogakaya. Tugjingame, its compassion all pervasive, is Nimadakaya. So that, essence of is inner three kayas are manifest outside is, So really, it's very important. It's all is embodied in ourselves. As Garabduji said, mind is and has always been the Buddha. Particularly, there is this wonderful book, teaching, which was, the Kunzan Lamikyanum, the word of my perfect teacher, is the teaching that Pat Rinpoche received from his own master, Jime Gyawe Nyugu, which recorded and there. But then there's a guide to the Sindhi, guide to that, with disciple of Pat Rinpoche, Nyoshi Lungtok, gave it to him, and that's so deep. If you read that, it's translated into English. It's called Guide to the Word of my perfect teacher. It's a blue cover. And it's called Zindi. And if you look into the refuge, it's so deep. You don't need more than that. That's why even Chojipade Atisha, he was nicknamed as Refuge Pandita, because he always practiced refuge and always taught refuge. And people think, because, refuge is something, a little low, should be. But it's really great master when they realize the refuge, So really, as Tang Tong Gyabo said, ultimate mananka den semjen tamchi lama sanji rinpoche la chas, sanji chudun genin la chas, lama yadam kandu sola, ransem tongsar chuchuko la chas. It's all embodied. When you realize deeper, the innermost nature mind, there's outer, inner, and innermost secret nature of the refuge. When you do that, and it so inspires, and then, when mind's inspired, and then arrive in nature mind, and combined with this, very important, relative and absolute practice should go in hand in hand together.